road or anything like that.
Girl, who close?
As we go around the bend here, we're going to see a telescope that's down on the right. It's the lowest telescope on the mountain. It's the very long baseline array.
Hey, baby.
It's about
I was cold.
12,000 foot elevation, and it's a radio dish, and that's why it's so far away from all the other installations. They have their own radio waves, so this guy needs to be kind of isolated. We've all seen radio dishes. It's a 25-meter radio dish kind of pointing away from us right now. This particular telescope is kind of a cool, really cool technology. It's called interferometry. So this is one element of a 10-element array. Basically, if you've got two telescopes, say they're 100 kilometers apart, they're very small telescopes, but they're a very large distance between them, and they're looking at an object along that axis. If you are able to do the math right and combine the light wavefronts, you can actually see something as small as if you had a real dish 100 kilometers across. Now that's massive, and you don't have anywhere near the size of a dish like that. I just want to point out that shadow that's starting to form on the clouds down there. That's the shadow of this volcano. As the sun sets lower and lower, that shadow will climb higher and higher. It's not only being projected on the clouds, but it's on into the atmosphere, so it's kind of a cool effect. But getting back to the VLBA, the two little telescopes there that are 100 kilometers apart are able to see something as small as if they actually had a really big dish, but you don't have that. You're not collecting anywhere near the energy you would be. So it only works for very bright objects. It's called, they say that in interferometry you gain resolution, you can see smaller and smaller things if they're bright enough. So this is one element of a 10-element array. It's the furthest most west element. There's 8 more across the continental US and one in St. Croix in the Caribbean. And they are all controlled by a central headquarters there in New Mexico, I think. And they all look at the same thing at the same time. The supercomputer is able to combine those wavefronts correctly, and they operate and can see very bright objects as if they were a telescope bigger than the US. And they actually published last year on the second oldest and very brightest object that we know of, X-ray source. They were picking it up in the radio wave frequency. So kind of cutting edge work with kind of an older technology with the radio waves. You can look down below and see another array. There's 8 6-meter dishes that are real clustered very closely. The smaller the wavelength, the less distance you need for that effective array to work. So the radio waves are very long wavelengths. Sub-millimeters are very short, so that distance is fine. You got the Keck 1 and Keck 2 over there. They're looking at nanometer, what we call visible light. So that distance is effective for them to do a type of interferometry. We just passed this little telescope here. It's the very, very first telescope at the mountains, installed in the 70s. And we'll talk about all the other scopes, because I think some of you guys are going to be in the van for some of the evening tonight. We'll see. It's very windy out there. We have plenty of time before the sun sets. We also have the summit here, Pu'uvekio. Summit Peak is what it's called, what it means. Kind of a boring name. Much more poetic name is Kukahau'ula. The Ku, the upright Ku god who is wrapped in red snow. And when it does snow on the mountain, if you look up from the summit, towards the summit from either Hilo or Waimea or Waikoloa behind us, in the early morning or late evening sky, Mauna Kea, the snow on the summit here looks like a really beautiful orange pink. And they say that when that color is here is when Poliahu, the goddess there, comes across the valley and is making love with Kukahau'ula, because he's the only suitor who's managed to penetrate the mist of Illinois and cross the Lake Waiau without getting drowned, and establishes himself over here on the summit, where he waits very patiently because he's very lonely. But Poliahu does come occasionally and share herself with him. So if you're lucky enough to see snow on Mauna Kea, you'll get that view. It's very, very beautiful. So we're going to come down here and hang out at the Canada-France-Hawaii telescope. I'm going to aim the bus towards the sunset so that if and when you guys need to come back on the van, you can definitely view the sunset from the inside. You'll also be able to see this effect of the shadow happening from the back. You guys can walk all around the perimeter here. Just be really careful because it's windy as heck and it's going to keep building tonight. I just wanted to point out there's another massive cinder cone right below the shadow there. That's called Pu'u Makanaka. It means the hill of people. And they found open air burials all along the base of that cinder cone. So they don't think anybody was actually burying anyone here on the mountain, the summit area, but they certainly were doing burials on that cinder cone. So I'm going to line us up like this, so we have a view of the sunset setting over Poliahu, the goddess of snow and ice right there, and we got some telescopes. I'm happy to go over those if anybody wants. Again, you guys please stay on this deck here so I don't have to chase you. When the sun does go down right at 6:15 or 6:20 actually, we need to come back and get on board so that we can come off the summit and decide where we're going to be able to do our star show. Like I said, if you have sunglasses, you probably want them because of the wind. You guys are welcome to walk all around the dish there. Try not to go right underneath up against the building because there's a catwalk up there and if ice forms at any time and falls, it's not a good thing. So I'm just going to ask a couple questions. You know what? Just give me a second. The ranger looks like he wants to talk to us.